Nicole, a 27-year-old nurse with tired but gentle eyes, was accustomed to night shifts. Her life was measured and predictable. Home, work, her beloved husband John. He was 31 years old and worked as an IT specialist from home. John was her anchor, her rock, a fit, masculine, gallant gentleman with whom she had been married for 4 years. Their home, filled with quiet comfort, was their little world, where love and mutual understanding reigned. Everything changed when Christine, Nicole's mother, arrived. Christine was a hurricane of a woman, 55 years old, but looking every bit of 40. Her red hair cascaded down her shoulders, and the confident gaze of her green eyes spoke of a woman who was used to getting her way. Nicole loved her mother, but always felt an uncontrollable force within her, capable of sweeping everything away. Christine came for a month, and her presence immediately disrupted the couple's usual rhythm of life. Even before Christine's arrival, Nicole noticed her mother giving John peculiar glances, long, appraising, with some hidden yearning. Nicole attributed it to a mother's affection for her son-in-law, as John was indeed charming. But she could not imagine that a flame had long been burning in Christine's soul, and this visit became an opportunity for her to ignite it completely. Christine wasted no time. She knew Nicole's work schedule by heart. When her daughter left for her night shift, a completely different atmosphere settled in the house. At first, it was light touches, seemingly accidental. Christine often appeared in the kitchen when John was making coffee, dressed in a silk robe that only accentuated her slender figure. She told stories from her youth, laughed her deep, husky laugh, and John, initially wary, gradually began to melt under her pressure. Christine was a master of seduction. She knew how to listen, ask the right questions, and express admiration for John, his intelligence, his strength. She cooked his favorite dishes, brought him coffee in his office, casually touched his hand, lingering with the gaze of her green eyes. John, accustomed to Nicole's calm, reliable love, was unprepared for such a storm of passion. He was a man, and his instincts took over. One night, when Nicole was on shift, Christine came to John while he was working at his computer. She wore only a thin, translucent nightgown, highlighting every curve of her body. Her red hair was loose, and her lips, painted bright red, beckoned. "You're so tense, John," she whispered, coming up behind him and placing her hands on his shoulders. "You need to relax." Her fingers began to softly massage his neck and shoulders, moving lower to his chest. John tried to resist, but her touches were too strong, too sweet. He felt her breath by his ear, her body pressed against his back. He turned, and their eyes met. In her eyes burned a fire promising oblivion and passion. He leaned in and kissed her, first hesitantly, then bolder and more passionately. Their affair blossomed in the night's quiet, while Nicole slept at the hospital, saving lives. In those hours when John and Christine surrendered to each other, their world was filled with tenderness, passion, and forbidden desire. They explored each other's bodies, reveling in every touch, every kiss. Their intimacy was dizzying, dangerous, but all the more alluring for it. Christine unveiled new facets in John, making him feel not just a husband, but a man who could be desired, passionate, untamed. Days flew by. Nicole suspected nothing. She was happy that her mother was there, that John was in a good mood. Sometimes she noticed strange glances between her mother and husband, but attributed it to their close communication. Her world was simple and clear, and she did not see the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. One night, Nicole came home early. One of her patients had a crisis, and after working a few hours, she sent her colleague to finish the shift. She was overcome with the desire to get home quickly, into the arms of her beloved husband. She quietly opened the door, anticipating a cozy evening. An unusual silence reigned in the house, broken only by muffled moans coming from the bedroom. Nicole's heart constricted with an inexplicable fear. Slowly, as if in a dream, she approached the bedroom door and gently opened it. What she saw forever divided her life into before and after. On her bed, under her blanket, naked and entangled in an embrace, lay her husband John and her mother Christine. Nicole's world collapsed. In an instant, she lost everything. Her beloved husband, who was like heir to her, and her mother, who was her support. Her mind refused to believe what she saw, but her eyes mercilessly registered every detail of this horrible scene. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with bitterness and pain. She could not utter a word. Only a hoarse, desperate cry escaped, full of despair and unbearable pain.
John and Christine flinched. Their eyes widened in horror when they saw Nicole standing in the doorway like a ghost. For a second, everything froze, and then chaos ensued. Christine tried to cover herself with the blanket. John tried to say something, but Nicole seemed to hear nothing. She only looked at them, and in her gaze was such unbearable suffering that even Christine, accustomed to her own invulnerability, felt a pang of conscience. Nicole left. She packed her essentials and left the house, which only minutes ago had been a symbol of love and happiness for her. She didn't know where to go, just walked forward, trying to escape from this terrible reality. After that event, everything fell apart. Nicole and John broke up. It was hard and painful for both, but Nicole could not forgive the betrayal. Christine, surprisingly, did not seem particularly upset. On the contrary, she seemed pleased that she had gotten her way. John remained alone, having lost the wife who loved him, and gained only rare meetings with Christine to satisfy his carnal desires. These meetings lacked the tenderness and passion that were present at the beginning of their affair. Christine came to him once a week, cold and demanding. She had achieved her goal, and now her interest in John had waned. He became merely a tool for satisfying her desires, rather than an object of true passion. Nicole, however, began a new life, slowly, bit by bit, rebuilding her world. The pain did not disappear, but she learned to live with it, focusing on work and finding new meaning in her life. She would long remember that day when her world collapsed, but she would also remember that she was able to survive and find the strength to move on.